Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Now, today's pick a card reading is all about you being the phoenix arising in your life and about what is in your flight path, what aren't you seeing, how knowing that can help you, and then a little bit about what your fuel is, your destination, your sat-nav. There's going to be a structure around it to think of it as a flight towards victory in one or more areas of your life. So that's the topic of the reading. And if that's the only reason that you've come to this particular video, you can go straight to the pick a pile section in the timestamps, and I'll talk a bit through about how it's going to run and the choice and all that kind of thing. But if you are seeing this the day that it's published or very soon after the day that it was published, there are a few announcements and processes I want to also do with this particular reading. One of them is around drawing the winner of the free personal reading from my New Year's Day rebirth video. So people who've entered in that, by the time you see this, because I'm literally going to film it today on the January the 11th, that's the day that I'm filming it, the day that I said I'd do the draw, and then I'm going to post it the next day. So by that time, if you won, you'll know. But nevertheless, other people might want to see the draw and how I did it and understand that for the future. So that's part of what this is about. And so that's going to be one of the sections of this intro broken down in the timestamps, which is the draw for that. So again, if that's sort of you're interested in that, then go to the pick a pile, by all means do that. But there were a couple of things that I wanted to say as well too. For those that have been following the channel, interested in various sort of things for this channel, and also things like a service that I want to sort of set up through Etsy for doing private readings, just to give a bit of an update on those sort of things. So if you're interested in that, please sort of stay for this bit before we move into the draw for the winner. So firstly, the first announcement I want to make is actually related to the draw for the winner, which is that I'm actually going to draw for two winners. And there's two reasons why I'm doing that. The first reason is people were so incredibly kind and generous in the comments that you gave. I actually meant when I was saying how to do it that just talk about the pile that you chose for that reading and what that particular reading, something that you got from that, and then what you wanted to do. But I think people took it, it must have been the way that I expressed it, that I was asking more like, what are you getting from this channel and my readings in general? Because it seemed to be how people were responding to it. And that was lovely. I mean, I wasn't sort of fishing for that, but it was really, really lovely. And people are so kind and generous in what they said. So I really wanted to respect that and to honour that, and to show my gratitude for the kindness and the generosity of the wonderful community that we're starting to build around this channel. I really, really appreciate it, and I love you all. So I really wanted to do something a little bit more. So I thought I'll actually choose two. And as I said, I think in the original video, I'm going to be doing every once in a while randomly competitions like this to give away free readings, because I am going to now start to set up, as I said, through Etsy, a private reading service if people want it. But as I've said a number of times when I've talked about this, nobody need ever think there's any pressure whatsoever to do that. This is a free channel. It's meant for you. You don't have to spend a single dime on me or my sort of services or whatever, unless you want to. But I want it to be there as available as an option for people who want it, because quite a few people have expressed interest in that. But yeah, this is the free channel. Don't ever feel pressured. But the thing is that my aim was to have that service set up by the end of January. Then I realised two things. The first was that that's right in the middle of a Mercury retrograde, which, if you know anything about astrology, is not the smartest time to set up a business offering or anything that has to do with communicating with people. So Mercury goes direct again, I think around about the 5th or 6th of February. So my aim is to sort of actually launch it by then, and I'll do some announcements getting closer to the time. But why I'm saying that's just an aim now is I had everything pretty much in place, but yesterday I started looking into the last bit that I needed to look at, which is the business insurances and so forth that you need to set up a private reading service in a proper business structure. And it's a little bit grey in the area about what insurance companies want to insure people who do things like tarot reading, psychic reading and so forth. And it's not, I'm waiting. I was almost getting the effect of a Mercury retrograde when I was trying to find out about this yesterday, in terms of like, they said forms and they didn't, and people didn't ring back, and all that sort of stuff going on. So I'm not sure whether it's going to be relatively simple and so it won't hold it up, or whether there could be a period of time where I need to have been doing it quote unquote professionally to be recognised as a professional, even though I've been reading cards for 30 years, because primarily I've done it for friends, family, colleagues, that sort of thing. I'm just not sure. So I don't know what the steps will be. And if it takes a little bit longer to do that, what I'm going to do is, instead of just randomly doing the occasional competition for a free reading, I'll actually try and do it semi-regularly, at least one competition a month until such time as it's in place, because I do want to give that opportunity for people who've been waiting patiently. Now, hopefully this isn't going to be the case, but until you know, I just want to do a little bit of expectation management around that. So we'll see, and I'll do more updates around what I'm doing in that space when I know more. So that is one part of the announcement. The other thing I wanted to let you all know is that if you've been following my community posts, you'll have seen one that a lot of people responded to very positively, which is the concept of doing a series, which is effectively, I'm calling it You Through the Houses. So it's each house of the astrology chart from the 1st through to the 12th. They are all governed by particular astrological signs, and so therefore govern certain aspects of life. So I'm doing one per house, and I'm thinking of doing that one per month. So all through 2022 there will be the next installment around about midway in the month. And I've actually filmed the first two, so the first house and the second house already, and they've been really interesting readings. So I think if you are interested in astrology and looking at that kind of level of depth around things, I think hopefully they'll be ones that are enjoyable and of use and helpful and interesting for you. And for those who were waiting on it, just to let you know, the first episode, so episode 1, the first house, is going to be published a couple of days after I publish this video. So in Australian time, January the 14th. So it's probably somewhere between January 13, 14, depending on where you are in the world. So episode 1 of that series is coming, and I'll be really interested to see how you like it, and if you have any ideas looking at it, things you'd like added or more done from or whatever, let me know, because I've only done, as I say, the first couple, and I can do a little bit of adjusting of the structure if people have any ideas they want me to look at. So those are the announcements. Thank you for your patience if you've been with me all the way through. So now we're going to move to the point which is about drawing the winners. So what I've done with that is the inspiration for the Rebirth reading on January the 1st was actually because I got a deck called the Rebirth Tarot, and it came in this gorgeous box. And I thought, you know what, when I'm doing the draw, why not use the box? So in this box at the moment, you can hear it, I've got the various names of all the people who left comments and entries for that particular reading in it. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm shuffling them all there, and then I'll take off the lid so that you can see all the various, so that's everybody who entered. And I'm just going to I know you can't see, but I'm turning my head away, and I'm just going to shuffle around and randomly pull one. And so that is Beloved Nemesis, if you can read my writing. And then I'm going to do another for the second winner. And that is Super Lady. Hang on, you can see how bad my handwriting is. But Super Lady. So Beloved Nemesis and Super Lady, congratulations if you are watching this. You were the winners of the free readings. I will be putting that particular piece of information on your comments on the Rebirth video, and telling you how to fulfill the requirements to make sure that it's you that's coming back to me, so that we can then set up the readings. If for any reason either of these two actually didn't want a reading and they were just giving a comment, because I kind of stuffed up the instructions a bit, if that's the case, then I will draw another person. I'll let people know via a community post. But I think everybody pretty much was interested in the personal reading, so congratulations to those two. And as I say, going forward, I will be doing more of these, and quite a lot more if I'm a bit delayed on doing the private reading offering, but certainly semi-regular, semi sort of random, but over the year, even if I do have the private reading one done. So thank you to everybody who entered. Thank you for your lovely comments and congratulations to the winners. What I'm going to do after I've done this particular set of readings is that I will let them know, and I am going to put up a community post that announces the winners and says that this is a reading that will be published the day after it's filmed so that people can see the draw if they want, and we'll just go from there. So that's a lot to have got through. Now let's talk about the pile choice and get to the actual reading itself. So as I said, we are looking at this particular reading being about your Phoenix arising flight. And so I'm using as a baseline for the Heart Code Oracles to look at 3 key areas of your life: your relationships, your career and finance together, and your lifestyle and well-being together, and connecting that with an I Ching hexagram to have a sense about the change energy that's around in those areas of your life, and archetype information as well too, to maybe pick up things that are under the surface or psychological involved, just to give us a map of all of that sort of thing, and maybe to highlight where there are things that you're not aware of or you could focus on to help your flight path. Then we're going to use tarot to look into that in more detail for each of those areas, and then use some oracle to look at things like your sat-nav, your GPS, whatever you want to call it, your destination, how you'll know when you're cleared for flight, and so forth. So that's the structure of the reading. I'm only using one particular tarot pack across all the readings this time, which is the Wisdom of the Unknown Tarot. And I chose that because it had in its imagery a lot of sort of like really fiery, bright energy, and also a lot of winged creatures and so forth. So I thought that's a really good connection to a reading that's about a phoenix rising. So what we've got here to help with the choice, I'll put down the numbers as usual. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. What we've got here in terms of the choices are different cards from that deck. So for pile number 1, I have the Queen of Air, which is the Queen of Swords effectively. And I also have the Sacred Symbols token for the Flower of Life. For pile number 2, we have the 8 of Wands with the Metatron symbol. For pile number 3, we have the Seeker of Fire, which is in this deck like the Page of Wands with the Tree of Life. And for pile number 4, we have the Seeker of Air, so the Page of Swords with the Om symbol. So hopefully some combination of numbers, the imagery, the sacred tokens, whatever it might be, will draw you to your right pile. But of course, as always, if you're drawn to more than one, go to more than one, because there could be messages across different readings. I don't know that the readings are going to have the sort of energies of those particular cards, because I don't know what's under here. I don't know what's going to come up as we shuffle other decks as we go. But it may be an energy or an image that helps you choose, or as I say, you may go by the sacred symbols, the numbers, or just meditating. Whatever works for you. As always, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you in your reading. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. I'm a little bit challenged with laying all this out, so I'll move things around as we go to give a sense. But the concept here structurally is that we have relationship energy here, we have career and finance here, and we have general well-being and lifestyle energy here. And we have Heart Code Oracles to give us a sense about some of the key energies that are around you at the moment. The I Ching and Animal Totems deck to tell us around change energy that's important to pay attention to. And the archetypes to give us a little bit of a sense of what this is playing out for you on a kind of psychological or interpersonal relationship sort of level. And it's interesting for you because I think everything comes down to various aspects of interpersonal relationships. This is the layout for someone who, if you don't realize it yet, is meant to be a leader. I think many of you may well be, but whether that's in your workplace, it could very well be with some of this, or whether it's around your sort of social groups or in your family or some combination of it, you have an interesting, I think, pattern in your life, and this is part of what you will arise and to be fully who you are, about learning how to, and I'm going to look at this first because there's a direct connection between all 3 of these, learning how to draw the right sort of loyalty to you, and loyalty that is based on enthusiasm rather than just requirements of the environment or whatever, and that is about collaboration and connectiveness, and ultimately about service to others rather than about the ego. The capacity therefore to look at where that is operating in your life. And with the vulture energy here and around relationship, work out what relationships and issues are working for you and what ones you need to either change or move away from. And lastly, then to own your own power around this as the tiger. So the tiger is a kind of energy with this particular hexagram, which is about increase, to understand how much you actually create your own reality. And in particular for you, I think, around all the different relationships in your life and the degree of power that you have in your life. And then what this reading is going to be telling us about is what are the various things that might challenge that or might get in the way of your flight towards everything that you are doing. Now, the interesting side of it is that just as this is very intense around a leader or someone who is meant to influence others and have people follow them in one form or another. So that, as I say, this could be anything. It could just be a leader within your social group. It could be a manager or a CEO or something like that in a workplace. It could be a social influencer. It could be a performer who draws people in with what you do. In fact, there is a very strong music element around that particular hexagram. So some of you might literally be musicians or use music as a way to draw people to you and to clarify things. So that's who you are. You have a very intense relational energy around the archetypes as well too. Scorpio is probably the most intense sign in many ways around relationships, and it goes to the depths. So, and it's a water sign. You may have Scorpio strongly in your chart, but you don't have to. It's really more this kind of getting to the depths and getting to the core of things and being very intensely connected. And when you are connected, you're very connected. Scorpios can be a little bit obsessive at times around relationships. And with the distraction energy that's operating at the moment for you, it is possible that for some of you, the interpersonal relationships, love relationships or whatever, are maybe distracting you from a larger calling that you have around being a leader or taking your career forward or taking your personal brand forward or something like that. There is a trajectory of change that really fits across all elements of your life here, but there is, with distractions around relationships, it's possible that any issues around that, whether it be love or other types of relationships, are actually taking you off the course here. And that's very interesting given that this card, while it is all about enthusiasm and it has the dog totem, so there's a sense of loyalty, you probably inspire a lot of loyalty in your friends, relationships and so forth. There is dedication and support and all that sort of thing. It is actually known as a cautionary hexagram because it is understanding that it's important to see this in the perspective of what it does for the collective and not just for the ego. So it's possible with these three here that one of the things you're not seeing at the moment that could hold you back is how much the more intense relationships around you, friendships, love relationships, what's going on in your family or whatever, may distract you from this pathway that you're actually meant to be on. When we then look at how that plays out across career and finance, we have denial around career and minimization around finance. So this suggests to me that there's something, and it's interesting, we have the relationship hexagram again about family, so it could connect to your family and family values that you've come through with, or it may be the family of people that you're working with in some way or that you seek to work with if you're studying or whatever. So there's a very strong relationship energy for that as well. But it looks as though there is not wanting to see everything that isn't working on some level, and not necessarily understanding how much the intensity of your power and how people respond to you could be misinterpreted here as the Shadow Queen. So there is a need to minimize, in some senses, some of the mystery around you. There's something quite mysterious around you, whether you deliberately do it or not. You have an air of mystique. And for some of you, your leadership may be very separate, and what I mean by that is you could be a social influencer, so you could be influencing a lot of people but you don't know them personally, so there isn't an interpersonal connection and so forth, and that could make you mysterious in and of itself. For instance, it's just an example. So there is something here because it is affecting your finances, it is affecting how far you can go, how far, what you can do in that space. And it's possible too that with the distractions around relationships, this could be an indication from spirit that maybe you're spending a little bit too much money on all the things around relationships and not enough on building your brand or whatever it might be. So there's something, again, around relationships, but we're getting more information here that you need to sort out and use that Scorpio intensity and inquiring mind to really use the energy of the vulture around this, because vultures, as this card say, they get a bit of a bad rap, but the reality is that they clear away, they're scavengers, they clear away what isn't working. But if you sit in denial about that, if you don't want to think, so this it would be classic for someone who is in a workplace taking on a leadership role and there's been some pushback from people who are jealous or something like that, and you don't really want to see it because you've sort of moved from being great friends with all these to now maybe being a leader. This is just an example. If you deny that energy is there, and you don't recognise that people could be projecting their stuff on you, which I feel is what the Shadow Queen is saying here, you don't seek to minimise that energy and understand the distractions associated with that, it can get in the way of you really becoming who you could be and be the phoenix arising around all of this. Then when we look at the energy around lifestyle and well-being, so the sort of broader scope of this, we have friendship. So you are very, very loyal. You have great friendships. You really care about your friends. But I think sometimes you don't understand or see how much people either just want to follow you or are a bit in awe of you or even maybe a little bit frightened of you or completely drawn in by you and not sure whether or not you're really going to be there, because this one, it's a little bit hard to see, is Don Juan. So it could either be that you have a tendency to be drawn to friends who have a Don Juan sort of energy around it, or it could be that you going into your power, because there's a tantric energy around the 42nd hexagram around increase, and it is great, it's exaltation, all those sort of things, and the tiger is a very strong energy, very strong personal energy, and you're meant to get to that. But it's possible, again, that people could project power issues on you here and also misunderstand your sort of intentions around things, or see you as being very charismatic, draw a lot of people in and be sort of jealous or worried about that. And if that started to happen, it could affect your relationships and your well-being. So what this is very consistent across it. It is saying that you are someone who probably has a stronger impact on your friends, family, workmates, all that, then you really fully understand. You come across a little bit mysteriously, and some people project on that you're into the power, into the ego, or you're very sort of potentially manipulative on either an emotional or other level. But that's really their stuff, because you're coming from something very pure, but it is saying you can't sit in denial about this, particularly around your career. This is, for most people coming here, the main risk around this is around not understanding that dynamic in your workplace or in your business or whatever you're doing, or potentially in a study group if you're still studying, and the potential for the drama around relationships to distract you from your goals. They're the two key potential points of blindness, I think, that Spirit wants to talk about. So let's look at some tarot. So as I said, I'm going to look at Spirit's advice and energies around each of these three levels to see, so around relationships, around your sort of career and finance, and then around your general well-being. And if you can't read any of these, that says well-being, that says minimization, that says denial, that says friendship. That's why I've been saying it, and that says distractions. So just to kind of connect that back there. That's why I'm saying the well-being card is actually talking about well-being. It's just saying your well-being is very much connected to your friendships and your relationships. So let's use the tarot to get a little bit more information on each of these elements. So first of all, on relationships, because a lot of this for pile one is about relationships, I have to say. Okay, so firstly this tells me, as I say, and I think it's because you maybe don't see and you underestimate the power of your presence and the power of your inspiration to others and how you draw people and how you're seen by people. I think you often feel a little bit a hostage of fortune around relationships, because that's the right way up. The rest of these are suppressed or reversed. I tend to think more often than not with reversed cards, it's more like a suppressed energy. But what this is saying is that you're going to get some information. So there's something beyond even, I think, this reading, which is meant to, in a sense, almost be a reading that is like the moon reversed, like bringing out what isn't seen at the moment. You are literally going to hear something around relationships. And I think in the immediate term, Spirit is saying it might distract you from other things. So don't sit in denial if it's sitting in your career area. Don't let it overtake you. Don't get obsessed about it. The information is going to come. You may be literally looking for it at the moment with that Scorpio energy there. And if that's the case, you're going to find it. And it is going to clear the air on some sort of, I think, minor skirmish. But it might mean that a relationship that you had thought about is not necessarily going to be exactly what you wanted. It may also be that it starts this clearing out process to get towards the people that you can really serve and be as a servant leader, that kind of energy. But certainly there's something coming up around relationship. That doesn't surprise me because this whole reading for you is about relationships, but there's something about how relationships operate for you and where you can be taken off course with it. And you tend to think that's fate, but I think what Spirit is trying to say is it's not, that you are in command. You can make the Wheel of Fortune work for you. You can minimize very much the kind of scuffles around it, and they are more like scuffles than anything major. There's not a sense in those cards of huge conflagration. It's more just petty sort of stuff and a bit of projection, as I said. There is the possibility, of course, with the Ace of Cups reversed, and if you're coming across in your general life with someone that you care about being a bit of a Don Juan, it might be a little bit of an indication to you to check in on if there's an important relationship around you, to make sure the person knows that they're important. That could be partly what you're going to see here, that it could be distracted away from a relationship by your career, and somebody sort of feels that, you're all talk and not the sort of real emotional connection. But that's not true, I don't believe. I just think it just might be that this is saying, if there's that, do the work, because I don't feel like you are a Don Juan. I just feel that you are very charismatic. You draw people in, and people can accuse you of that if they're feeling left out or they're feeling jealous of you or something like that. So let's have a look at the energy, particularly around work and finance, because it does look here, so Spirit is suggesting that you are denying some energy that needs to be cleared out and some issue around power that's a little bit shadowy. You're minimizing it and you're denying it. So let's see what other information Spirit can tell us about. Okay, so equestrians are knights in this deck, and as I said in the introduction, seekers are pages. So it's definitely saying that your career is likely to be burgeoning, looking up. It is confirming, I think, with the sun there, that there's a lot of reason for optimism. You're sort of like on the leadership path, whatever it might be. If that doesn't fully connect, it might be that you're going to have a promotion in the not too distant future, or you're just starting on a career and it's very well aspected. So the sun, for this first thing, is saying the sun is shining on your career. That's why, and the sun can shine on the denial and the minimization to help you and take that shadow queen energy out and bring things to the light. And Spirit is saying there will be some adjustments you need to make, but they're kind of structural and minor. It is very much, the Tower reverse is very much the energy of the vulture. It's anything around that is really going to be major has probably already happened, and you're now in the space of sort of like readjusting. And as long as you don't deny what came out of that and minimize the impact on it for other people, you can take people forward and be very, very inspirational to people with the Page of Fire there, the Seeker of Fire. So that's kind of the cleanup and the restructuring and so forth energy around it. And it may well be that it's something like that you do that really puts you on the fast track if you're not already a leader in some way. It's very, very focused on what is stable now. So I feel this does suggest that if there's been an issue, it's been you moving up the ladder and you've got to understand the dynamics of that, or there's been changes in your workplace, or you've left one workplace, you've gone to another, like whatever the major change is, that's happened. But there is still some sort of like fine tuning to happen. And you will, by doing that, and not just expecting the loyalty, but doing the work with the vulture. So not just kind of bringing people along, I'm the boss and that's it, but doing the work with the vulture about what is really going to move forward, what is good, and understanding that shadow queen energy is there. So you need to be as clear as possible and inspirational as possible, shine the light on things as much as possible. You get a very good outcome. And again, you start to feel in control because the Equestrian of Earth or the Knight of Pentacles is solid and dependable and gets things done. And there's a lot to be said for that. Okay, so then let's have a look at how this all plays out with your well-being, because there does appear to be, I think, a connection between your well-being and key relationships here and how you're seen. And there's a lot for you around friendship. Friendship really is important to you. So let's see what Spirit wants to say about that aspect of your life. Okay, so looking at those cards and looking at the whole thing, apart from whatever's going on in work, and for some of you that may not resonate because there may not be things going on in work. If this is more around friendships and love relationships and everything, this is certainly saying some new energy is coming in. And it's very well aspected with the sun, but it comes once you have an aha moment. There's new energy around your general lifestyle, your well-being, your friendships, all of that kind of thing. And there's some shifting of the old. So I do think for many of the people who've come here, there are people who've been in your friendship circle, love circle or whatever that you're moving away from, and it's right to do that. You can work on minimising the kind of material impacts of that if it connects to your work and so forth. But I think for many of you, this is more around sorting out your kind of relationships, friendships and so forth. And there is a shift from that, from what wasn't a long-standing thing, what wasn't going to work for you, to things that are going to be very long-standing, and where your inspiration is something that gets that loyalty and so forth, and that you feel very well about it. Like, I think it's very good to see the Ten of Coins in the thing that's around lifestyle and well-being. It suggests that on a sort of physical level and so forth, you're very well, your constitution's great, you're doing what you need to do for your physical well-being as well too. But there is some emotional fallout that you're going to work through with this. Though I do think for most of you, it's most likely going to be around the work. That's it. There is more of a constellation of the denial, minimization, having to make choices, having to take back the mastery around work. Even though I do think that friendship, relationships are there can be distractions, and there may be some shifts around that. I think for most of you, this is really saying this is your year to start to rise in your career, to sort out what it means to be rising in your career with your relationships, and to clarify all your relationships so that who you really are and what you're trying to do is seen, rather than people projecting on you, because I think it happens quite a bit because you're such a powerful energy. Okay, so let's have a look at some other aspects of this. So as I said, there's different things. I want to look firstly at your fuel. What's going to be the fuel for your Phoenix flight? So I'm using the Crystal Chakra Oracle there for a couple of crystal energies and affirmations for you for the fuel to get you going to make the most of this. Pile one. So the Sacral Chakra and the Heart Chakra. So I'm not surprised the Heart Chakra turned up, because as I say, this is all about relationship in one level or another. The Sacral Chakra is about creativity, and I think that picks up sort of the fiery sort of energy and the inspiration that you bring, and it may be sort of music and as I say, the performing arts for some of you, but it's connected with Peach Moonstone. So the energy for your fuel here is around self-love and passion. So it could be that you try to be everything to everybody with this sort of energy, and it's affecting your self-love and your well-being and your friendships. So there's something I think here about the dog and getting that balance right and the cautionary energy there. The affirmations are, I remember to love myself. So don't get detached from people because you are in a leadership position or because you're sorting out the more intense sort of relationships around you. And I follow my passion. So with your career, go towards what you're inspired with. That's what's going to inspire other people, and that's what's going to take you on that pathway to leadership. Then with the Heart Chakra, we have Chrysoprase, I think. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And that's about meditation and detoxification. So I actually think it's more around meditation for you. I think with this sort of energy here, your well-being physically is quite good. I'd be surprised if many of you needed to detox, but you may need to calm your mind down and your emotional centers down. The affirmations are, I meditate to become closer to spirit. So that's important. Yeah, that actually makes sense, because if this feels very 3D oriented, relationships, career and so forth, if you connect your heart chakra to spirit more, then you get some of that fuel direct. And I detoxify myself of harmful behaviors, connections and environments. So if you do find, when you start to look through all these relationships, which is what I think you're going to be doing, that some are projecting stuff on you, that will help you work out which ones are not to stay, so that you can then commit to those that should last. Okay, so that's your fuel. Let's get the GPS, the sat nav, the kind of, or the kind of radio, airline radio sort of advice and so forth for you. I have healing and priorities. Okay. So priorities makes a lot of sense around your career thing, not to deny what you need to do, not to minimize what you need to do, to prioritize and work out where you put your energy. And that talks about focus on what truly matters to you. So again, yes, it's what matters to you, because I think you get a lot projected on you. You need to put yourself literally in the driver's seat here, the airline pilot seat. And healing, welcome healing into your mind, body and life. I do think it's your mind. I think your body's fine. I think it's more your mind and your emotions. So think about that. Think about connecting spiritually to your heart chakra. Then the next bit is, what are you really seeking? You know, like your destination. So some energy around your destination for your Phoenix flight. Okay, so I think your destination is in sorting out the relationships and understanding how to work collectively, a leader, but collectively, because we have illusory obstacles. You are going to find most of whatever the tensions are and the things you're worried about have been sorted out. And to the degree that there are people projecting, you're either going to be able to shift their view or you'll be going to be able to move on. Your flight is very clear, and it was right from the beginning. You are meant to rise in your career, in your personal brand, in your relationships, whatever it is. You're meant to be an inspiration to other people. You're meant to get into your own sovereignty, but you do it with other people. This is why relationship, you're all about relationship. I suspect many of you are in careers which are about relationship in one form or another, because it's so imbued in you. You are absolutely about the people that you're around, and I think you're very genuine about that. I just think that you're so intense and you have so much of the power of charisma that people don't always see that, and it's understanding that and getting that information right from the start, so that you get back, as I say, into the airline pilot seat. So, last but not least, we're going to use a couple of cards for signs and synchronicities that will tell you you're ready to have takeoff, that you're getting the okay from air traffic control to take off. So, let's see. Travel, that's very fitting for this sort of metaphor, and nature. Okay. So it may literally be saying, for some of you, there is travel associated with this, and maybe you've been grounded a bit in recent times if you're watching this around the time that it was recorded in early 2022 with all the travel restrictions and so forth. So it could be something literally like that you will know you're ready to sort of move when you can actually physically go from location to location with more ease. Or it could be that reading about travel, thinking about your next holiday, all of those sort of things might be signals that you're getting into the zone for this. Equally with nature, it might be traveling to somewhere with nature, and it may be that gives you the real understanding, the capacity to get into that meditative state. Or you may see pictures of nature, you may read about nature. Any of those sort of things is really meant to pick up either some things in your life that's going on as a sign, or synchronistic concepts. So the synchronistic concepts of travel and nature may come to you to indicate, yes, you've kind of done the work that you needed to do, you found out what you needed to do, and now you can grow together with whoever it is that you want to go forward with in relationships and in your career. So pile one, I hope that was helpful to you. I hope it was enjoyable and it resonated. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear how this struck you. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile two, to your reading. So I will move these around a bit as we go through to make some of the pictures a bit clearer. But the structure of this is the Heart Code Oracle's relationship, career, finance, and lifestyle and well-being. So these are the three elements. So relationship, your career and money, and then your general well-being. The I Ching and animal totems are around change energies that are around you at the moment for your Phoenix rising flight, and the archetypes that pick up what's going on around the sort of psychology of it, the energies that are around you, how you may appear to others, and so forth. I have to say that this one is pretty clear what it's about, I think. It's about a workaholic. So if you are not a workaholic, or if you are not feeling sort of overwhelmed with stuff around your work or your study or something that you're trying to do materially, you may not have come to the right reading. So I just want to say that right up front. It could be sometimes also being a bit obsessive and overheated and overly drawn into relationship as well. But I think a lot of this is talking more around not taking some time out, getting some rest, recouping energy and getting the timing right rather than sort of being at the behest of everybody else or of business timing or of trying to get money. Now, one of the reasons I'm saying this, firstly, with the Heart Code Oracle for Relationship, it's blinded. So there's something around relationships. So I think for many of you, it's more around business than it is around love, though it is possible with the vampire energy there that we're seeing this energy in two areas of your life, but there's something that you're not seeing. And I think it's more to do with how taken you are with the vampire energy, how hungry you are for what you're trying to do and whether you're burning yourself out. For many of you, you may literally be looking for money and opportunities at the moment because around career, we have bridge and we have capital. So literally for some of you, you may be looking for bridging capital. You may be looking for sponsors, supporters. You could be someone who's just started a Kickstarter and everything is like focused on that and getting the money to do something. There's a lot of things that are outside of your control and other people's decisions are having a real bearing on things. And as a result, in terms of your well-being and lifestyle, you're feeling guarded, and this is saying overwhelmed. So it's very clear in the Heart Code Oracles that this reading is for people who either in their relationships and their career or in their career, personal brand or whatever, you're putting a hell of a lot in and it may be burning you out. You need to take some rest and you need to think about your timing so that you're ready to take flight. I think it's a very clear message of get that rest, then you can take flight. It's probably the only real issue. So when we're looking around relationships, we've got firstly the 29th hexagram, which is called the abysmal, which sounds really dark. It's not really as dark as it sounds, but it's about a big undertaking. And it is saying go for it, but it's saying get the flow right. And it's really interesting, I think, with the vampire energy here, because part of this I Ching talks about going with the flow of water, so fluids and liquids and so forth. And the animal totem that's chosen here, which is the cormorant bird, can go down into the water, so into the depths, the emotional depths, to see what's really going on, to not be blinded. But I find it really interesting that there's vampire energy here because that's also about fluids, but it's about blood. And I keep thinking of that thing that says blood is thicker than water. So I think for some of you, there might be something either about family relationships here or around the sort of like passionate side of sort of, that might be blood compared to the easier flow of water and the clearer side. If you think about it, if you were trying to swim through blood, it's going to be harder to see your way than swimming through water, which is why there's some blinding there. So I do think it is suggesting that if you are feeling a little bit caught in a overheated or over obsessive relationship, and whether it's you who feels that way or someone else is like that with you and they're just draining your energy, because there could be sort of psychic vampires around you or a relationship around you that is very draining, that getting to that flow, getting past that energy, the sort of vampiric energy, to something that is more easeful is important, and you have to take the blinkers off to do that. If this is in your career, and I think for many of you it will be, we have the 15th hexagram of modesty reversed. And so that does come up when one overdoes it, when you're disordered, where you go to extremes, when you're a workaholic, because the cicada energy and the energy of this card is meant more to be around divine timing and going with the flow again. So this is you really trying to push something. And it's not to say that you couldn't get what you want. It's just that, you may be pushing so hard that you leach the enjoyment out of it, or you feel burnt out and so forth. You do have a lot of passion, particularly creative passion, I think. I think a lot of you, this will be in a creative sort of field of one form or another. And that's great, but with that amount of fire, you can overheat it. And so there's choice about timing here, and it may be suggesting for some of you that if you feel like, if I don't grab this opportunity now, even though I'm exhausted, nothing else will come, it probably is suggesting that other things will come and you'll be, if you've taken a bit of rest. But, let's see what the other cards say about that. Certainly if you feel that you have to grab a financial and business opportunity now, that you don't have any choice, that the degree to which you can influence the flow of timing around expectations would be important. And down here, as I say, with the guarded sort of energy around your sort of well-being and your lifestyle and so forth, is I think you worry about the implications of taking the rest that the slug here is talking about. So the slug is just the concept of rest, of taking some time out, being yin energy, being receptive and so forth. I think there's a hint in here of if there's a impending opportunity, not to not take it, but as I say, to try and negotiate the timing and to be as receptive as you can, hearing, ask questions and everything, to allow yourself time and to give you that sense of control around it without losing the enthusiasm or potential support that might be there for you. And with the Capricorn energy here, you're actually very, very good business wise. Like, you actually really are good. So if you have these opportunities coming, then you really have all the smarts business-wise to do it. Don't feel like overwhelmed and like it's too much. It's the timing, and it's asking the questions and making sure you're ready and so forth to move forward. That seems to be the clue here, because it allows you a little bit of breathing space. It allows you to get back into the flow and not to feel that you're being driven by everybody else's ideas for you and business requirements and timing. It's a negotiation type of energy. So let's use the tarot. So I'm going to have some cards for relationships, then for career and finance, and then for the general well-being and lifestyle. So we'll see what other information Spirit wants to give around this spread. So I don't think it's for you that you couldn't, I think you've got a real chance to really rise and to have some really great opportunities, but it's getting the timing right and getting your energy right so that you don't burn yourself out. It's almost like, actually what I'm getting is Icarus. So there's the phoenix rising out of the ashes, and then there's the myth of Icarus, who got the wings and flew too close to the sun before he was ready. So it's about timing. That's why this is the one that's reversed. So let's ask firstly for a little bit more information around the relationships. What are you blinded by in terms of, is it your commitment and your kind of almost obsessive connection to people, or what is the energy? What does Spirit want to open your eyes for around relationships? Okay. So firstly, with the Nine of Wands reversed, that is often where you are trying to decide whether to keeping on with something, and with it reversed, that you're being very, very careful. So it does suggest that there is a relationship or relationships around you where you feel you have to be very careful what you say, what you do, and there's almost within this relationship, whatever it is, a kind of a battle about who is the most skilled, who is the most knowledgeable, and so forth. If it's a friendship, there's almost a battle about who's the smartest person in the room. If it's a manager or mentor or whatever, I think you're getting ready to sort of outstrip them, and there's a pressure around that. It could be even parental with the Empress there, or something in that kind of area as well too, where you are following, in that case, maybe the imprint of your family and what relationships are like and so forth. You may well have come from a very powerfully emotional family and very obsessive sort of relationships and so forth. But the energy that Spirit is saying is to let go of the learning that you've had. It's almost like you need to unlearn stuff around relationships. There's something where you got caught in the structure of what you think, the expectations of others, what you think relationships should be or whatever, and it is like a paradigm that's blinding you. It's like kind of a relationship confirmation bias, if you could think about it that way. It's like you've learnt certain things, and potentially, like literally learnt it through some sort of study, or you've learnt it from your family or from the sort of power structures around you, and you're very careful because of that. But this is the unlearning, to be unblinded, to get more to the flow, because I feel like it's like you've got this sort of set of criteria around relationships and so forth, and you feel like you have to stick to that. This is saying no, that you are actually much more adept at this than you're thinking, and you can free yourself from some of that concern if you get into the flow. Make it less about theory and more about what your heart is telling you, and not unlearning some of the stuff that you have. So there's a blindness around your relationships that comes almost from the theory that you've studied around it, or what you've seen in your family or something like that. So let's have a look and how it's affecting career. Because career and finance looks to me like there's a real opportunity around you. If it hasn't happened yet, it's coming, and Spirit really wants you to think about how to manage the timing around it. So that will be interesting to see what Spirit wants to say more specifically about that aspect of your life. Okay, so there's definitely an offer coming to you if it hasn't come. Definitely and it's one that actually is close to your heart and close to something that you want to do with the equestrian and water. So that's really effectively the Knight of Cups. It could even be that there's a career offer that connects to a romantic connection as well too, which might be why we've got the sort of vampiric thing up here, to make sure that you've got that kind of balance right in a relationship if you're going to go into business together or something like that. It does look like you are a bit of a pessimist about this. You're more developed than you're giving yourself credit for, and the offer is coming to you because of that. But you're very careful about not offending people, not upsetting people, and so forth around this. This is why you're guarded down here as well too. I think you've come from a family or in a social group where there's a lot of social mores or expectations, and you've always felt you had to do that. But the good news is with the Five of Swords reversed is that that's kind of like the bridging to the Six of Swords in getting a kind of peace of mind and heading forward. There was a battle that you probably didn't need to have, but it did help you, I think, unlearn things. It gave you a different perspective. It either has or it will take the blinders off, and it will feel a little bit psychologically challenging, but only a bit. It's not too bad. It's like the fallout of it is not that high, and the offer and the opportunity come there. But there's something here, I think, around either maternal sort of influences on you or even your attitude to abundance. You feel as though there's one way of relating that gets abundance to come in, and you're not sure you can do it in your career. I feel like that star energy can be turned around. You just have to understand that you're further along the track and that you're meant to be more individual. And you're also meant to be literally in the airline pilot seat here around the timing. But there's something coming if it hasn't come already. And if it has come, then don't get pessimistic about it and feel like you just have to kind of blow all your gaskets to keep it going. And even if you burn yourself out, it's actually going to be easier than you think. I think Spirit is saying it's your own doubt here that's the issue. So let's have a look, a little bit more information around how that's operating more generally in your life, and where you're getting a bit guarded because you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, but to understand how much actual ability you have to manifest what you want if you just remember that. Okay, well, that's pretty clear. For a start, we've got the sun and the moon. That's alchemical. That is a real sign, as I say, of this Capricorn energy. You are meant to be able to manifest, and you should be even literally able to feel it in your body, in your well-being. Your lifestyle should be showing it, all of those sorts of things. There is an alchemical connection here. The real chance, once you've unlearnt the stuff that isn't working, to move towards yourself and to get that pattern and that sort of timing that suits you, to deal with the emotional stuff, but to deal with it in a stronger position with the moon. And to accept with the moon there that sometimes you're not going to have all the answers about every emotional thing, and you don't have to. It's just get the timing right, have the flow, and work with information as it comes to you. Then you move from feeling a position of lack to a position of money coming through, support, and so forth. If you just sit in the position of lack, or you overdo things and so forth, then it's hard to get to that mutually beneficial thing. I think this is saying that there's an opportunity that can be mutually beneficial operating for you in your career or in anything to do with money, personal brand, and so forth. But you have to accept that it can be reciprocal and that you can have as much say. So it's a very clear message over and over here. It's that everything is setting up because of your natural ability here for you to have really, really a lot of wealth potentially, a lot of success, all of that kind of stuff, particularly in the business area. But you get a bit blindsided because you have relationship patterns that you just sort of set into, and a sort of sense of urgency that is more than you need it to be, which can lead you to get a bit obsessive and burn out. So you do need to think about your well-being, not get overwhelmed, because you're in this for the long haul. And think of it like a marathon runner. You're operating a bit like a sprinter. Operate like a marathon runner. Okay, so let's get some more information on that. So firstly, we want to look at the fuel that you would use. So we're using crystal chakra energy here for what's the fuel for you to first of all power down and get the timing right, and then to be able to move forward with, you know, your very strong manifestation ability. File 2. So we've got solar plexus chakra and the third eye chakra. Okay, so with the solar plexus chakra, that's about your personal power and about your energy. So it's absolutely all over what this is saying. You are more in control of it than you think, and don't underestimate that. With golden calcite, we have leadership and self-worth. So you are meant to, I think this is, some of you may well go into leadership positions and it could be a promotion like that, but I think for many of you it's more like a business venture you do yourself. You're an innovator, you're a creator and all that kind of thing. But it's connected, and allow that, and allow your Capricornian energy here to give you some of that self-worth. The affirmations are, I take the lead of my own life. And yes, do that. You know, take the lead of the timing. Don't let other people dictate the timing to you. And I know my self-worth. So yes, there is worth here. You definitely have worth. That's why there's going to be opportunities around you. It's just making sure that you don't burn yourself out. Then with the third eye chakra, which gives you a telepathic sense of this, and it's interesting that vampire energy comes up around relationship there. It is possible for some of you in certain personal relationships, there could be almost a kind of telepathic vampirism operating. So I'm just saying it's very specific, but be aware of that and put some boundaries up energetically if that's the case. It's not necessarily that anybody does this deliberately when that happens, but it can happen if you have a telepathic connection to somebody. The crystal energy here is blue aragonite, and that's about calmness and relaxation. So yeah, like get into a space, meditate, rest. There's a very strong message here about rest. And it says, I remain calm in times of stress. So yeah, don't let other people bulldoze you. And I take time for self-care and relaxation. Yeah, take time. It's all about everything in this is about timing. So given that, let's see what your GPS, your sat nav, your sort of location, your advice from air traffic control might be for your Phoenix Rising flight. Okay, so firstly we have Yemajah, who is the goddess of the sea and the mother of all. See, there's something about maternal influences on you, I think, something about the divine feminine, something there, but there's also something about water. It may literally be saying for some of you, you know, take lots of baths, you know, get into the sea, do all that kind of thing. It might be a very reviving thing for you. But it's also about that flow. Remember that sense right from the beginning, the flow, and taking the goddess energy about being able to do that. And then amethyst is about spirituality, intuition, stress relief. So that connects to this third eye chakra. If you have access to amethyst, maybe keep it close to you. Keep it next to your bed at night when you sleep. If you are trying to sort of sort out how you want to negotiate something, maybe have, you know, an amethyst, you know, stone in a pocket or in a necklace or something like that. I think amethyst will connect you to that calmness and relaxation so that you feel able to go with the flow and to set the timing. Okay, and so what would you be seeking? What would be your destination for your Phoenix flight? That's interesting. All right, this is interesting. It's just a separate sort of thing here. I think it's not so much really picking up. I was using the Seeker Oracle for what you're seeking, but it might be seeking your way away from the vampires and those that are drawing too much from you. But we have undeserving villains and being neutral. So I think what this is saying is that there are some vampiric energies around you. There are people who are maybe wanting to demand more and put you in a service position as opposed to a co-creation position. Just be neutral, it's saying, you know, be calm, be neutral, and just keep stating your case. Don't let somebody hijack it and put all the pressure on you. And if this is about a business partnership, do not let a business partner do that to you. Okay, so last but not least, we're going to look for some synchronicity type information about when air traffic controller said you're cleared to fly. And I think in this case, when you have sort of got the things in place so that you can move forward with this, having got the rest and having got your life into balance. So we have doorways and epiphany. Okay, so I think this is definitely saying you need to understand this. You need to understand that you just can't keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because something will break and it'll be you. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a breakdown full stop, but it just means you're going to feel overwhelmed and leach some of the joy out of it, and maybe someone else gets more out of something than you're going to get, whether it's a personal relationship or work. So there's an epiphany and just having that light bulb moment. But equally, once you start moving with this, if you see light bulbs, if you sort of suddenly start having lots of inspirations, particularly coming almost like it feels like telepathically and so forth, that could be a sign that you've got things in alignment and you're ready to take off. And doorways also. So you may dream about doorways, you may hear songs about doorways, you may see pictures of ornate doorways or whatever, but you have that sense that you're ready to step through, but you're ready to step through. You've decided to open the door and step into your future. You're not being forced through the door. So pile 2, I hope that resonates for you, and I hope it's helpful for you in getting yourself ready to navigate your Phoenix Rising flight. If you did enjoy the reading, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So I will move these around to make them a bit clearer to see at various stages of the reading, because I only have limited space here. But how this is set up is we have, firstly, this level is around relationship, and just so that you can see, the card for the relationship from the Heart Card Oracles is fear. Then we have career and finance, where we have leadership, and then this says sacrifices. And then we have lifestyle and well-being, so we have criticism, and this says activity. And here, for each of those levels, we have a I Ching and animal totem card to give us a sense about change energy around you at the moment when you prepare for your Phoenix Rising flight. And then we have archetypal energy, which could be personality aspects you have or that you are experiencing around others and so forth, for part of preparing for your flight. Now this, I think, has a very specific sort of meaning to it. So if this doesn't resonate, you maybe haven't come to the right reading, because this is very much about someone who is about to step into a higher level of power in some way. It could be just within personal relationships, but I suspect for many it is literally around leadership in some form of career or vocation. And you can understand there are some sacrifices, even potentially financial sacrifices associated with it. It may even be the choice about whether to take a leadership role, given some of the energies here that I'll get into, or whether it's better to sacrifice the money associated with that, because maybe the leadership role being offered to you or the opportunity is not one that ultimately is going to be easy to manage within your ethics and who you want to be as a person, because that's the challenge here. And there's a issue around criticism by others, either the people who could be offering you opportunities or by people who are watching you take opportunities, and where you put your activity and energy. And there's fear around the impact on relationships. So looking first, I think, at the I Ching cards, because I think they give a very strong sense about the overarching risk that you need to manage, is firstly around relationships. We have the 40th hexagram, which is normally about deliverance, but you have it reversed. And this is where the sense of momentum and energy that the moose totem can also give to sort of move forward and deliver one from situations and move into better times is potentially being challenged by ego around the will to win, as opposed to the will for a longer lasting, balanced thing that's really going to work for you in your career or your relationships going forward. So there's a bit of an ego struggle going on. Now, whether or not, for some of you, I'm getting this is not you, it's someone around you. There's someone around you that is in your personal relationships playing an ego battle and a power battle. And there may be a bit of fear around that, particularly around how grounded it is. So I'm getting for some of you that you may have a challenge at the moment around a not particularly grounded person in your personal life. And you have some anxiety about how to manage that. But if that doesn't resonate, it may be more that this is the relationship impact of what appears to be happening here, which is moving into a more public position, a more leadership role, a new business or whatever it might be, something where you start to stand out. because the I Ching card here for the stuff around career and finance is the 47th hexagram reversed. And this is all, the 42nd hexagram is about oppression, but it is also about coming out of that thing normally and having an internal alchemical shift to bring about a more balanced self and a more balanced situation. But because it's reversed, we have things that could be premature, or you could be impatient or absolutist about things, rather than going with the sort of more in-depth energy of the Raven totem, which is more spiritual and more going to the depths and more listening for kind of spiritual insights and guidance and so forth. And that could be particularly the case because maybe your natural tendency within your career is to be extroverted, to move amongst many people, to just get on with it and just be seen and so forth. But it's definitely saying that it may be premature. It may be premature in whatever this is. And it's again suggested with the reversed hexagram around your well-being, which is this 21st hexagram, which is biting through, and that's about command. And the elk is there, so a sort of a powerful sort of communal sort of creature. But when it's in reverse, where it's control, offense, tyrannical energy, and so forth. With the magician, which shows you're very powerful manifester and so forth, and you tend to manifest through activity, and your body and your soul and all your well-being likes activity, likes getting on with things. You're probably a little bit impatient. You don't really want to wait around. But you could potentially draw criticism to yourself if you are moving into something that you're not quite ready for, or where the environment is very contested. Like I wouldn't be surprised at all with this, because you are quite grounded and you really do have the skills. It's not really so much here that you don't have the skills or wouldn't be ready for the next step. I think for many of you, it's in an environment that's highly competitive and maybe a bit toxic. So some of you may be in a workplace that's a bit like that, where it's all about, win, 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 as opposed to, something that's more collaborative and more about sort of authentic leadership and so forth, and which is very fear-based. You could be very much in a work environment that's that way, or it could be that permeates a lot of your relationships. There's a lot of power issues. It'll be interesting to see what we get with the tarot. And all of that could make you, because you really want to start to be seen for who you are, step into something where you could then be criticised for not being ready for it. And I'm not necessarily saying you aren't. So this isn't an assessment of your actual readiness. It's more the environment that you're in. And I think you understand that. That's why that fear is there. So I think when we're looking at how to be the Phoenix rising, it may be more an issue around, is this the right environment to be in whatever way this is aspecting? And if so, what's the timing? How can you do the timing and use your skills, but maybe take it a little bit slower, wait until you've got certain pieces on the chessboard in place before you rise, literally. So let's see what tarot has to tell us. We'll start firstly with some cards around relationship, and then we'll do career and finance, and then we'll do the sort of general well-being ones. So firstly, a little bit more information, Spirit, for pile 3 around the relationship energies that they need to be more clear on and aware of to be able to be the Phoenix rising. Okay. So there's definitely something you've got the opportunity to transform. This is the Death card in as transformation in this deck. Something, a choice to change, to let go of something, probably something that was a bit emotionally unhappy. For some, it's around a power relationship. So I definitely think the people who've come to this reading, if you've come to the right reading, there's almost a motif in your life about power. And it's probably because you're the magician. It tends to go with that sort of energy. If you are a manifester, if you are spiritually and so forth, a powerful person and very skilled, you tend to attract power issues to you. It's just the way of the world. So there's a transformation, a choice, and probably moving away from this pattern that is more about power. And I think that that's very good, because I think it is again suggesting this isn't you becoming the tyrant to fit in with other tyrants. This is about you working out how not to take that energy through and to complete maybe a relationship that hasn't been what you wanted it to be, or to complete the cycle of understanding relationships in some way with the universe or world there. So it's saying that you are much more close and ready to your Phoenix flight than you think. But as I say, I just think it may be the environment you're in or some of the people that you're around that you need to sort through that. And either, as I say, move into something else, or it might be that this sort of criticism and this sort of way that you might be perceived as opposed to who you truly are, you just have to develop the armor around that because you're going to get it because people are jealous. It could be one of two things there. So let's get a little bit more information around the career and sort of finance sort of side of this for you. Okay. There's definitely new energy and a blessing coming in around your career. So you are going to have opportunities. As I say, it's really, really more the choice of the environment that you do it and how either you can be perceived or whether you just, as I say, put on the armor and you know that there's going to be a lot of projection and you just deal with it. There's probably at least a couple of options for you, whether it's a couple of jobs, a couple of workplaces, a couple of business opportunities that you could do, a couple of ways of getting the financing. It looks like there's some choices around that. And it may be potentially connected to some of the broader relationships around you. That part of the choice might be about knowing which ones to go forward with and which ones are pretty much, they've done their dash, so to speak. But there definitely is a very strong material opportunity for you. What I like about this is that it looks as though it's almost like this is a refining fire. I think that's why we had the alchemical card with the raven. Alchemy itself is there's a point in it called the Negredo where all the constituent elements are burnt out and burnt down before effectively the phoenix can rise, or the peacock can be seen, or the white rose, all the sort of symbols around alchemy. And I feel like this is showing quite rapidly you can go through that once you make the right material decision, because we go from the page of water to the king of water, so page of cups to king of cups. So you quickly, once you have sorted this thing out, and I think it's an issue about how to build a material legacy that is more true to your heart and less to the power struggles around you, you move from the page to the king very quickly. And you have the power of choice. This is the understanding and the magician that you have. Like, don't underestimate yourself and don't worry about the criticism that comes to you. A lot of that is about jealousy. Okay, so let's have a look at what is happening, around all of this with your general well-being. Okay, so this is saying, I think the Four of Swords reverse is saying you need to sort of come out from behind the scenes. You are meant to be moving forward. This is not a reading that is about you being premature about that you are somehow sort of someone who, started your job last week and want to be CEO tomorrow. It's not that kind of energy. But you are going to need to, once you've sorted out what you want to do, come out a little bit more about what that is. It does suggest a period of time of kind of contemplation is good, but there is a point at which you need to come out and really put the hard yards in. So once you make the commitment to whatever this is, and whether it's around a relationship or whether it's around career or both, there is a lot of hard work that you need to do. That's why there's the activity thing. But I think you're all over that. You are someone who gets things done. You think very quickly, you work very quickly, all those sort of things. And in doing that, I think this is saying don't worry about the criticism. You are going to establish your abundance. You are going to have a foundation. And that's all that's really required of you at the moment. This may also be picking this up. It may be saying that for some of you, you may have a choice to fast track, but you know that if you fast track, you may not really be ready. And so you're actually building your foundations a bit more and you make that choice. That's a possibility. Either way, you're going to get a good outcome about your choice. But if you do move up the ladder, it's like you are going to, with hard work and capacity to be really clear about what you're doing. And I think with the Four of Swords reverse, if you are getting criticism, being able to calmly but clearly and with a great deal of emotional intelligence with the King of Water there, state your case so that it can't be used against you, because I do think that many of you are in highly, highly competitive environments. Okay, so given that, let's firstly look at what kind of fuel your Phoenix needs to rise. So this is using the crystal chakra deck for some crystal chakra energy and affirmations. So the solar plexus chakra and the throat chakra. Yeah, and that kind of sums up this energy quite a bit, I think, because the solar plexus is all about your personal power, your energy and so forth, and being able to stand true in that, not worry about criticism and so forth. With yellow jade, this is the energy of tranquility and self-sufficiency. And the affirmations are, I allow tranquility to wash over me. So you are in a very contested area. Kind of don't get into the drama to the degree that you can avoid it. And I'm getting like some of you might be sort of in social media or something like that. It's always dramatic and it's always got criticism. It's always got that stuff, but just kind of let it flow off you. You're heading in the right direction. And I am self-sufficient in my endeavours. So yes, you are not necessarily in an environment for collaboration, I have to say, if you've come to the right reading. So you do need to be self-sufficient, but you can be. And then you can speak the truth and come out and say what you need to do with the throat chakra. And we have aquamarine, which is about sensitivity and closure. I think this is connecting on two levels. One is maybe to a closure around a personal relationship. As I say, there feels like there might be one where you're either moving away from it completely or you're putting some boundaries around it. And in other ones, it's about knowing how to take the steps forward and how to deal with the conflict around you. The affirmations are, I honour my sensitivity and I create my own closure. So yeah, allow yourself, you don't have to be steel in all of this. And you can be sensitive and you can respond to things like criticism and stuff, but do it within yourself and within your own terms. You are actually highly sensitive. A magician will be. Don't see that as a weakness. It's an incredibly good radar for you. So let's have a look at what your GPS or your sat-nav or your kind of air traffic control advice would be around how to steer the right course for you in your Phoenix flight. Selenite and Ishtar. Wow, okay. So selenite is about purification, moon magic, and an energy shield. So there is something, you do need some form of energy shield in personal relationships or work. Selenite may be very good for you to have selenite around you. But don't underestimate the strength of spiritual guidance and support that's around you with Ishtar, because that's a goddess, and she's a goddess of love and passion, doing what you care about, but also war and justice. And I think this is saying that as long as you don't become the thing that you're trying to fight, and that can happen, it's that sort of statement about looking into the abyss and becoming like it because you look so much into it. As long as you don't do that and you stay true to yourself, then you will have justice on your side. You will win out in this environment, even when it seems contested. Okay, so let's lastly look at what you might be seeking, what's your destination, and then we're just going to look for some signs that you're cleared for flight, for takeoff. So first of all, what you're seeking, pile 3. Balance your energy and expand your universe. Okay, so I think this is a step-by-step thing. There is some closure, particularly around certain relationships, which could be any type of relationship, but I think there's some personal relationships around this. Balancing your energy around all of it and then expanding your universe. Once you have worked out what isn't what you want to take forward, it'll be a lot easier then to expand and to have the growth that you want and under the terms that you want, rather than constantly dealing with this battle around you. Okay, so let's finish off with a couple of sort of synchronistic signs that you might see or encounter when you're ready for takeoff. Clouds and travel. That one came up for another reading. So that's it. Literally, for some of you, if you are watching this around the time that it was done, which is at the beginning of 2022, it literally you might need for your career and to move forward and to be who you want, you might need to be able to travel, like literally do that. And the clouds are parting on that and you're cleared for travel. So it's like there might literally be the opportunity to expand your universe, expand your world, to expand your career, to expand the relationships around you and all of that sort of thing. It may actually involve some form of career or lifestyle or choice that is about a lot of travel, a lot of movement around and so forth. That's a possibility. Beyond that, if you see clouds with pictures in them that sort of like resonate to something that you're trying to do, if you hear songs about clouds, if you see drawings of clouds, any of those things may be a sign. The things that you're thinking about and doing at that time may be signaling you're getting ready to take off. Similarly around travel, if you see travel adverts, if you see distant destinations that you've always wanted to see, whether or not you actually jump on a plane and do it, these are all just symbols that you are ready to take off. And I think this is a double message for pile 3. It is saying despite the fact that it is saying be careful not to become the thing that you don't want to be in this environment, not to become the competition, but to be true to yourself and make your choices around that and get things in balance. You are really ready to take off. And if people are saying to you, oh, you're not, it's this tokenism, you got it for a diversity reason, or you got it for all the sort of things that people say when they're jealous and they can't recognize that you really are ready for something. I think this is Spirit saying you are ready. The clouds are shifting. You are ready for takeoff. So pile 3, I think it's a tricky energy for you to deal with, but I think that you've got what you need to do it. You just need to believe in yourself and be very, very clear about your choices, that you don't get caught in an ego battle or something like that, that you really are clear that what you're doing goes towards your longer term aims, and then you really can't go wrong. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the reading. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 4, to your reading. So the way that this is structured, we have the heart code oracles for the 3 different elements of life. So we start with relationship, we have then career and finance, and we have lifestyle and general well-being. And this, of all the readings, has the most variety of potential ways of reading it, though I think that there is a common theme. But I just want to touch on a few of those varieties very quickly, and then I'll synthesize them more and we'll get into the tarot. One thing that strikes me is that there could be people who come to this reading who are somehow involved in the health industry, nutrition industry, general well-being industry in general. And why I'm saying that is that we have Virgo up here as an archetype, which is often about health. We have a sense with the I Ching of a journey of understanding with a high degree of sensitivity what needs to be changed, what has spoiled, what you move on from, and what is now worth fighting for and so forth. So a sort of integrated, almost holistic healing. The well-being card says wait. So I do think for some it's going to be on something else I talk about, but for some it may be literally people who work in nutrition, diet and stuff like that, particularly when around finance is temptation. So it's almost as though resources in general and finance is sort of temptation about where one expends energy or takes pleasure and so forth. That could connect literally to that, and helping people with that, or having your own struggles with that. Particularly I'm getting for some helping people deal with water here, emotional overeating, particularly if career and things like that are feeling stuck in some way, and that there is something to bring somebody back into integrity around what they do in their work, around prioritization, and even prioritization around how to, as I say, run some sort of health type of business potentially, or something like that. And there's a participate energy around general sort of lifestyle, so maybe sort of group work and so forth around that. So there's something there, and in being that, you could literally be the CEO, the leader of your own business or something. And if you are thinking about doing that, it certainly would suggest this is well aspected, that you would do extremely well in any kind of business or creative endeavor or relationship-based sort of discussions around balancing health, well-being, what we consume, what we take as our energy sources, how we use them, and having a high degree of sensitivity and strength to be able to deal with that and to move on, as I say, from what's been spoiled. The other thing I'm getting is that there is maybe a high degree of sensitivity around relationships, but maybe a need to sort of bring that into things around career. It looks, interestingly enough, because we have the 18th hexagram in career, but we have the 19th in relationship, that for many of you, you may have sorted a lot of this out through your own relationships. You've understood a lot about yourself and relationships. You're highly sensitive to people. So I'm saying you'd be very, very good in some sort of therapeutic role if that's something you wanted to do for your career. But it does suggest that the wisdom that you have and the capacity here with forgiveness to not be too hard on yourself or on others that you have in your general relationships, you haven't quite integrated yet around your career, but you could. In the career element with the 18th hexagram, it's about integrity, it's about healing, correction, about justice, about clearing out what has been spoiled, what hasn't worked, using this wonderful sensitivity and gentleness of the deer. I actually think many of the people who come here are very psychic, you're very telepathic, you're very able to read a room, very empathic, all of those sorts of things, but you've largely done it around your personal relationships. You haven't fully brought it into your work, but if you did, it takes you to a whole other level of sensitivity and understanding and so forth. And it helps you prioritize and not get distracted. I think that you might get distracted sometimes by all the various things that are going on in a workplace, and maybe even not wanting to let go of things even when it is time because it's been spoilt in some way. Then more generally down in your lifestyle, as I say, there's something you are meant to run your own business, be a CEO, or just self-actualize. It doesn't have to be that you take that role, though I think for many of you, ultimately, this weight may also be taking on the weight of responsibility. Having understood this genius you have for people and then being able to put it into a practical way, you start to move into having a very weighty responsibility and making sure you don't, you don't sort of start sort of comfort eating or burning the candle at both ends and so forth and have your own issues around it if you move into that position. So it's just something, because the archetype here, we're using them for psychological aspects for you at the moment around what you may not be seeing, and that may be getting in the way of your Phoenix flight. But you're certainly meant with the warrior energy here of the 38th hexagram, and with the warrior energy of the badger, to be determined and to continue with purpose. But it is important not to be stubborn. And that's where I think your sort of sensitivity is one of your biggest strengths in all of this, and in getting to that really weighty sort of outcome, whatever it might be for you, is that the risk of the warrior is to become stubborn and too fixed. But because of your sensitivity, and if you start to bring that into your workplace, then you're in a very strong position to move forward in all aspects of your life. But as I say, I definitely think some of you, if you're not already doing it, if you thought about things around relationship counselling, nutrition, diet, health, all those sort of things, you would be a natural at that, and very, very helpful for other people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use tarot. I'm going to firstly do some tarot around relationships to see what other information Spirit has around that, then around career and finance, and then lastly around general well-being. So firstly, Spirit, tell us for pile 4 a little bit more information around this. Is there a bit information around what this forgiveness is? Is there literally some relationships at the moment that they need to forgive and move on from so that they can continue to sort of build what they want? Or is it their own capacity to do that and to be an example to others that's really part of their Phoenix flight? Okay, so what I'm getting is the forgiveness is of yourself. It looks as though around relationships, for some reason, you feel a bit of guilt around something, possibly because you want to go your own way and do your own thing. So whether that's that you're in a relationship where it's just you're no longer on the same page and you're going in different directions, or whether you haven't wanted to have a relationship and people want you to have a relationship, but you're on your own personal journey for your own personal self-expression, and you really want to focus on something that is secure and not emotionally draining. I think that there is something, you may have broken up from somebody, you may have stepped away from relationships while you focused on your career, you may still be dealing with emotional issues from the past and maybe taking too much on. Those two together with that sensitivity, and my sense that you're very psychic and empathic, there is probably a little bit of a warning that Spirit is saying here that that very forgiving nature that you have, the very emotionally expansive nature, don't let it become a thing where you can't differentiate between your hurt and somebody else's, because that is something you maybe need some boundaries around. That you need the construction of what is real. Go to that Virgo energy. Go to the Virgo that looks for what is structurally valid, looks at the facts of something. Don't just get swayed by the emotion around you, particularly if you're drawing it in, because you're highly empathic. But the forgiveness here is primarily, I think, to yourself, to allow yourself to go forward to be who you want to be in relationships and in general. All right, so let's have a look at how this plays out for work at the moment, where it looks to me like there's a need to kind of clear the air, prioritize a bit, and not get tempted to sort of try and be everything to everyone, particularly because you're so sympathetic and empathic again. You have a kind of self-sacrificing nature to you, actually, so I think Spirit is saying don't overdo that. All right, in the workplace. Okay, so this is definitely suggesting that there's some big stuff that's been going on or about to go on in your workplace, and that might be where it's very important to prioritise and not get tempted to try and solve everything or boil the ocean, as they say. With the Tower there, some of you with that, you may move on from a workplace. You don't have to, and you obviously need to think about, paying the bills and whether there's something else to go to. But some of you may do that. Others, you may be in a workplace or a career or some sort of like financial situation that's dramatically changing. What this is saying is right in the midst of the drama, the worst is actually over. It looks as though there's been an anticipation of this for quite some time. And as a result, a lot of petty arguments. You are in a strong position. Just as long as you don't get kind of tempted to try and solve everything for everybody else, you will ride this. This is a good clearing out energy for you. It's exactly the energy you need, because the Jaguar is meant to clear away. The Jaguar in that particular I Ching is meant to clear away what is no longer serving and allow the release of that. And I think allow the release of any sort of like guilt or issues, like mental stress around it. So at the point, if it hasn't already happened, at the point where the major change, whatever that is, occurs, the worst is done and you're in a very, very strong position. So I think that's good. I think that Spirit is saying, don't worry too much about this. You are very well placed to move forward, to do what you want to do. And I'm getting that if you are like in the health industry or things like that, again, you're very much about the strengths, about clearing out people. You may focus on helping people physically, emotionally and so forth through major change and through sort of disputes, but if that's the case, you're in a very strong position to do it. Okay, and then let's have a look at cards for the general well-being. Okay, it's interesting. We got temptation and then temptation there. Of course, temptation here is actually the devil card in this deck. So one of the things that it's saying is trying to cling on to what was the past is not good. That would be one of the key things. If you are trying to stop a change that's coming through, that could be something that is not helpful for you, that it gets you stuck when you're actually meant to be clearing this energy off and moving forward in some way. But I do think this is with the Queen of Water or Queen of Cups, this is very much saying this empathy you have and this emotional acuity that you have is very, very strong. That's why you ultimately are going to make something of yourself out of these skills in one form or another at some form in your life. And once you actually understand this is sort of like the Ten of Swords is always darkest before the dawn, and then we have the sun, so there's the dawn. Eight of Cups, there may still be some emotional stuff, and particularly if you still have feeling of guilt or you feel like you're thriving when other people are just surviving or whatever it might be, because you're so empathic, you do need to forgive yourself for being able to be successful and navigate this world, because it's part of who you are. And you are meant to rise like the phoenix from whatever this is. And I think by an example, help other people. Okay, so let's have a look at what the fuel for your Phoenix flight is. So using the crystal chakra cards. Have the heart chakra and the sacral chakra. Okay, so heart chakra doesn't surprise me at all. You are highly empathic, you're highly caring, you're very connected to people, and you don't need to worry that you're going to be cold about this. You just need to be kind of practical, as I say, and go into that Virgo energy. The heart chakra here has chrysoprase with it, which is about meditation and detoxification. I think this might have come up for another reading, so some of you may cross a couple of readings. The affirmations are, I meditate to become closer to spirit. So yeah, don't sit in your mind, sit in the connection to spirit through your heart chakra, because your mind, you can be too harsh on yourself, and you do need to be able to forgive yourself. You'll be able to do that through your heart chakra because you're not really doing anything wrong, powerful. The other affirmation is I detoxify myself of harmful behaviors, connections, and environments. That's that energy around the workplace in particular, around the Jaguar, to get to what has integrity for you, what is true to you, and so forth, and clear out that which is no longer working. Then we have the sacral chakra, which is all about creativity. So there's something creative you can do with this, but it could be creating a business, it could be creating, a podcast series, whatever it might be. And you have sunstone, and you've got sun here too. So many of you, there's something in your career or in how your personal brand or how you could which is about well-being in general, lifestyle and well-being. If you are wanting to do something in that space, or you're wanting to run a YouTube channel or whatever, you'd be excellent at it. And the sunstone is really showing that, and luck and radiance. The affirmations are, I believe that luck is on my side. And it is. This is the thing. And don't feel guilty about it. And I project an everlasting radiance. And yes, you will. But as I say, you're going to be an example to other people, which is lovely. So let's see what the sat-nav or the GPS or the air traffic control directions are for you to help you in your Phoenix flight. We have experience and amethyst. Amethyst came up as well. I definitely think some people might be looking at a couple of readings, which is fine, but it just would be a confirmation that it was right to do it if you did. So experience, let yourself grow, embrace your knowledge, apply it and improve it. Yes, that's kind of all of this. You have a lot of really, really strong ability, natural ability, sensitivity, empathy. Allow yourself to grow. Don't feel held back for others. Forgive yourself if you feel like you're leaving anybody behind, because in the end you're going to be an example to them. And something that might help you around your spirituality and feeling connected and more in your sort of meditative space to your heart than in your mind is amethyst, because it's all about spirituality, intuition and stress relief. So maybe keep an amethyst around you if you can. And we want to have a look at what you're seeking. What's your destination using the Seeker Oracle? What do you seek? Made for motion. Okay, so I think it's just, again, I think there's an overarching message here for you, which is that it is okay to seek things for yourself. I think that you're so empathic and you're so caring that you tend to worry about that when you do it. But once you've worked out what you seek, it's fine to go after it, and you're made to move forward. Some of this health thing might be also about dance, music and things like that. There's some interesting ways. There's so many different ways that you could help your sensitivity and your understanding about almost holistic health in one form or another. Could come out very creatively through dance, music, or could come out through, as I say, running a healing business. It could be anything, but there's something in that. And once you've worked out what you want to do, you will be able to navigate to it. So last but not least, we want to look for a couple of synchronicities, signs from Spirit that you're cleared for takeoff, basically. Okay, so we've got loved ones in spirit, okay. And white light, wow, okay. So it's a very spiritual thing here, which is probably why I got that sense right at the beginning. You're psychic, you're empathic, all that sort of thing. Some of you may be mediums, so you may get messages and so forth from people in your sort of family or ancestor line that have passed on. Otherwise, it may be that you read books about stuff like this, you hear songs about it, about, people, connecting spiritual things. You see movies that have that, a bit like The Sixth Sense or something like that. So there's something along those lines but it's almost, I feel like it's a double message. It's saying that anybody close to you that's passed on is watching over you and is very much supportive of what you're doing. And white light, if you're meditating, you'll probably see white light. You'll probably get angelic sort of energies and so forth. In fact, I'm actually being inspired here. Spirit's saying to me, I haven't done this with the other readings, but I feel because I've got white light and loved ones in spirit, I should roll the fortune dice. So the fortune dice are dice that were created by a woman called Bobby Richardson, who has her own channel around this sort of channeling, and it has angelic numbers and guidance. And I'm just feeling like as a closing thing I should do that for this particular reading. So we have contact. Some of you may have some sort of starseed type stuff. I think when contact turns up, it could connect that. It could also be that something around contacting others and contacting in spirit and through mediumship is going to be important, and intuition. So yeah, this is really doubling down on your spiritual side of things with 8, 0 and 7. Okay, so this very much suggests to me with 0, that's the sort of angelic guidance, that's the sort of spirit again. This is saying you're meant to teach as well. There's something, you lead by example, you teach, you run a business around it, something like this, and that is meant to bring you material outcomes. So, but it is coming from spirit. It's coming from that high degree of empathy, which is your spiritual connection, that brings everything into balance. And if you stay true to that, then really nothing can stop you, because you're meant to help heal other people, I think. Pile 4. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings.